The rise and fall of the Mongol Empire, the world's greatest conquerors. The Mongol Empire was unlike anything the world had ever seen. At its peak, it stretched from the Pacific Ocean to Eastern Europe, covering nearly 24 million square kilometers, the largest contiguous land empire in history. But how did a group of nomadic tribes rise to dominate the world? How did they maintain control over such a vast territory? And ultimately, what led to their downfall? The rise. From nomads to conquerors. The Mongols were originally a collection of independent, warring nomadic tribes scattered across the harsh steppes of Central Asia. They were expert horsemen, archers, and survivalists, living in a brutal landscape where only the strongest could endure. But it wasn't until Temujin, later known as Genghis Khan, united these tribes in the early 13th century that their true power was unleashed. By 1206, Genghis Khan had declared himself the ruler of all Mongols. He built an army that was disciplined, highly mobile, and ruthlessly efficient. Unlike other armies of the time, the Mongols used speed, deception, and psychological warfare to break their enemies before the real battle even began. They could travel up to 80 miles a day on horseback, ambush entire cities, and strike fear into empires that once considered themselves invincible. The conquests, a world on fire. Genghis Khan led his forces on a campaign of unprecedented destruction and conquest. His armies stormed through China, Persia, the Middle East, and Eastern Europe, leaving behind cities in ruins and civilizations forever changed. China, 1209 to 1279. The Mongols crushed the Jin dynasty in northern China and later conquered the Song dynasty, establishing the Yuan dynasty under Kublai Khan, Genghis's grandson. The Middle East, 1219 to 1221. The Mongols obliterated the Khwarezmian Empire after its leader insulted Genghis Khan by killing his messengers. Entire cities were wiped from existence. Russia and Eastern Europe, 1237 to 1242. The Mongols overran Kievan Rus, destroyed entire cities, and even reached Hungary and Poland, terrifying Western Europe. The Mongols didn't just destroy, they also connected the world. Under their rule, the Silk Road flourished, allowing for unprecedented trade, cultural exchange, and even the spread of new technologies. They created one of the first international postal systems, religious tolerance policies, and legal codes that governed multiple cultures across Asia and Europe. The fall. A fractured empire. For all their military genius, the Mongols struggled to govern such a vast and diverse empire. After Genghis Khan's death in 1227, his successors continued expanding, but internal conflicts and power struggles weakened their unity. By the late 13th century, the Mongol Empire had splintered into 4 separate khanates: the Yuan dynasty, China, eventually overthrown by the Ming dynasty in 1368. The Golden Horde, Russia and Eastern Europe, gradually declined due to local resistance and the rise of Moscow as a power center. The Chagatai Khanate, Central Asia, weakened by civil wars and local uprisings. The Ilkhanate, Persia and the Middle East, collapsed due to economic struggles and lack of strong leadership. By the 15th century, the Mongol Empire was little more than a memory. The very lands they had once ruled had evolved into new empires, kingdoms, and nation-states. The legacy, more than just conquerors. Even though the Mongol Empire fell, its impact shaped the modern world, trade, and globalization. They connected East and West like never before. Military strategies, their tactics influenced future warfare. Cultural exchange, ideas, inventions, and religions spread across continents. Rise of Moscow. The Mongol occupation of Russia, ironically, helped Moscow become a dominant power. The Mongols were both destroyers and builders, warriors and statesmen. They reshaped the world with their conquests, but also with their governance, trade networks, and innovations. Their empire may have collapsed, but their legacy is still felt 800 years later. Would the world be the same today without them? Probably not. What if the Mongol Empire never fell? A world ruled by the Khans. Imagine a world where the Mongol Empire never collapsed. No internal divisions, no defeated Khanates, no rebellions. Instead, a single, unified Mongol rule stretching from the Pacific Ocean to Europe, controlling trade, technology, and warfare. How different would history be? A global superpower before its time. If the Mongols had held their empire together, the world could have become one massive interconnected state centuries before globalization even existed. The Mongols already had the Yam postal system, which functioned like an early version of a global communication network. Imagine an empire where messages traveled across continents within days instead of months. A medieval internet of sorts. Trade along the Silk Road would have been protected and expanded, making Mongol-controlled cities like Karakorum, Samarkand, and Baghdad the economic powerhouses of the world. Instead of the Renaissance being born in Europe, scientific and technological revolutions might have emerged under Mongol influence, spreading from China to the West at an accelerated pace. Europe under Mongol rule? Would the Mongols have fully conquered Western Europe? It's possible. In the 1240s, Mongol armies annihilated Polish, Hungarian, and German knights, but they retreated because of political struggles back home. If their empire had remained stable, they could have pushed into France, Italy, and Spain, reshaping European culture, governance, and warfare forever. Under Mongol rule, European kingdoms might have become vassal states, paying tribute instead of waging war. The feudal system could have collapsed centuries earlier, replaced by a Mongol-influenced meritocracy that valued skill over birthright. Perhaps Europe would have developed gunpowder weapons faster, as the Mongols had already mastered their use in China. Islamic and Chinese worlds. Under a lasting Mongol rule, the Mongols ruled Persia, the Middle East, and China, but internal divisions led to their downfall. If the empire had survived, the world could have seen a single dominant culture blending Chinese philosophy, Islamic scholarship, and Mongol administration. The Ottoman Empire might never have risen, as the Mongols would have held power in the Middle East. China's Ming dynasty wouldn't exist, and Chinese culture could have been permanently shaped by Mongol rulers. Islamic advancements in science and medicine might have spread globally at an accelerated rate, changing the course of technology. A different America. Had the Mongols remained dominant into the 15th century, they might have been the ones to discover and colonize the Americas instead of Spain and Portugal. With their advanced navigation skills and vast resources, they could have built ships capable of crossing the Atlantic before Columbus. Imagine a world where North and South America spoke Mongolian instead of Spanish or English. Industrial Revolution. Would it have happened sooner? Mongol rule encouraged technology sharing between cultures. If they had remained in control, the Industrial Revolution might have come centuries earlier. Steam engines, mechanized factories, and early versions of modern technology could have emerged under Mongol-led Eurasian innovation hubs. The modern world, a Mongol century. Had the Mongol Empire survived into modern times, the world map would be unrecognizable. A massive, centralized superstate could have dominated the global economy, politics, and even digital technology. Perhaps today's world leader wouldn't be the United States or China, but a single unified Mongol government ruling from Asia to Europe. Would this be a golden age of peace and unity, or an authoritarian nightmare where one empire controls everything? We'll never know. But one thing is certain. If the Mongol Empire had never fallen, the world would be a vastly different place. Don't forget to like Comment and subscribe for more fascinating stories about history's greatest figures and events.